Meanwhile, in the House of Representatives, the Speaker welcomed the lawmakers back. He drew their attention to some specific issues. He started with the approaching 2015 elections.
The election year 2015 is still unborn as far as the prescriptions of the Electoral Act and INEC regulations and guidelines are concerned. But for some, desperation has already taken over. As we conduct ourselves with due regard to the serious security challenge of insurgency and terrorism, with bloodletting on the rise and the general volatile political atmosphere, the people should be our prime focus, because without the people, there will be no country, and therefore nothing to represent or govern.
He also spoke on the need for electronic voting in the chambers.
An issue of concern is electronic voting. As members are aware, this is one of the high points of our legislative agenda document. The system has been fully installed and yet manual voting continues. We need to enumerate the importance of legislative voting to both the legislator as a record of reference and self-assessment, and the electorate as an accurate means of assessing their representatives on general performance as well as legislative disposition. As a 21st century legislature, we must raise our art. Accordingly, the Clerk of the House is hereby directed to activate the electronic voting system and make it operation within 1 week for all bills from second reading. It is a legacy we must bequeath the 8th Assembly.
Expectedly, he touched on the growing insurgency in the northeast.
It is a matter for grave concern that the insurgency in the northeastern states of the country has graduated from sporadic acts of violence to an alarming situation where acquisition of territory has become the main focus, thus threatening our territorial integrity. This therefore calls for decisive action.
A motion on the same matter was considered.
Mr. Speaker, honourable members, the matter is with regard to the absence of insurgent activities in parts of Borno, Yobe and Adamawa states, whereby insurgents have now resorted to seizing territories, overpowering our military men, seizing territories and holding ground and hosting their flag and declaring caliphate. A caliphate simply means that such a territory is no longer part of Nigeria. As I am speaking to you right now, I am representing 3 local governments. Out of the 3 local governments, I have lost one to the Boko Haram insurgents. And that local government is Marte local government. The people in those local governments, because of the fact that that local government is neighboring Chad and Cameroon, some have fled to Chad, some have fled to Cameroon, while some are now in a displaced camp in Maiduguri. There is a need to mobilize the Nigerian military to these affected local governments so that the citizens can go back to these local governments, to their respective place of abode, and live a normal life. It is the absence of the military that is driving them away to either neighboring countries or to other places and then stay as refugees. Once there is presence of the military there, they are ready to go back. And that is why our prayer is that the military should be on the offensive. Right now, the problem we have is, for example, when you go to Bama, they are in control. When you go to Goza, they are in control. The military, for example, with respect to Bama, they are in a neighboring village called Kauri, but they have not gone into Bama with a view to flushing them out. It was in the news that they have killed about 200 of them in Konduga local government on their planned invasion of Maiduguri. But they are in control of Bama. The military has not gone into Bama to flush them. Neither have they gone into Goza to flush them out. And the same thing applies to other local governments. So our prayer is that the military should be urged to mobilize fully to go and flush out these insurgents from this local government so that the citizens can have a sense of belonging, can have a sense of security and go back and live a normal life.
Mr. Speaker, the time has come. Let us as a House summon the courage of this House and the authority of this institution to tell Mr. President to wake up to the duty of providing for the security and welfare of Nigerians. Mr. Speaker, why is it that no military officer has been sanctioned or disciplined or dismissed since these incidents started? Unless we get to the point where our military are aware that there is political ability to deal with their inability to perform on the field, Mr. Speaker, this is likely to continue for a very long time to come.
But after some lawmakers spoke, the House went into a closed-door meeting. After over an hour, the House agreed on these resolutions.
In this regard, I see this opportunity to once again commend our military and the security agencies for their gallant determination in flushing out the insurgency. Our troops need full kitting, equipment and motivation that meet current international standards so as to insulate them from avoidable loss of lives and limbs, and also to meet the force of the offensive. Let me assure them that the House of Representatives will meet all its obligations in that regard.
The House also resolved to step legislative diplomacy with other countries that had similar experiences and also raise funds for internally displaced persons from the affected areas.
The two chambers also considered the Ebola virus outbreak. Here is how they concluded.
While the lawmakers were on their annual recess, the country recorded its first Ebola case. As the lawmakers resumed, they considered the manner government had addressed the situation. The Speaker of the House of Representatives was full of commendation for the government.
I wish to highly commend the federal and Lagos state governments for their proactive and efficient handling of this Ebola outbreak. It is proof, once again, that when the true Nigerian spirit is called to duty, nothing is unassailable. In response to this, the leadership have agreed and hereby direct the committees on health and HIV/AIDS to collaborate together with the special committee that was established by the federal government in ensuring that whatever legislative action that is needed to be taken in terms of possibly reviewing our quarantine laws are brought forth for the National Assembly to consider.
The Senate President said the outbreak also draws attention to the need for a good healthcare system.
Though our customs forbids us from speaking ill of the dead, I must say, I deplore the conduct of this vile and irresponsible visitor called Patrick Sawyer. His condemnable action has left a huge burden and everlasting scare on the nation. However, what is reassuring is that government has been able to contain further spread of the epidemic. One useful lesson from the outbreak of the Ebola virus is that Nigerians are now more conscious of their personal hygiene. This notwithstanding, government at all levels must now leverage on this preventive measure to check further spread. What this ultimately calls for is good and implementable healthcare delivery system in Nigeria.
The Senate also considered a motion on the Ebola virus disease in Nigeria, sponsored by 108 senators. Most of the lawmakers urged the federal government to immortalize the heroes, especially Dr. Amiyo Adedevoh, who lost their lives in their service to the fatherland and humanity.
Urge the federal government to immortalize the heroes and heroines, especially Dr. Amiyo Adedevoh, who lost their lives in their service to their fatherland and humanity.
While we commend all the people for their efforts and for rising to the occasion, we should remember this lady who sacrificed her all in the interest of our country, in the interest of our nation. Because if it were not for that lady, I know that Patrick Sawyer, from the reports we have read, was determined to find himself in one of these ritual homes that call themselves churches or wherever. And you can imagine the calamity that would have befallen this nation today.
I will want to give thanks to Almighty God for giving us the life of Dr. Mrs. Adedevoh, who put our professional ethics ahead of all other considerations, laying down our life for all of us to live, But because without our proactive behavior, God knows what will have happened.
The Senate has also urged the executive arm of government to strengthen port health services in all ports entry across the country.